Omar, just want to say to you, Omar,
I'm giggling.
I hope that today you've got some attacking stats with you.
I'm gonna disappoint you terribly, Bobes. I'm gonna break your heart, my friend. Like I broke your heart in training so many times.
Well, we're glad to have you back on, Omar. You obviously, last week spoke about the Springboks' upcoming game then against Wales and what to expect defensively. I must say, though, I just felt that the South Africans gave up halfway through the match. There was a moment where the guys stopped playing. And in that case, when players don't necessarily have that belief, when the team collapses or crumbles, as it were, do your stats mean anything? Do patterns still count for anything? Or is it just all a mad scramble to stop the attack?
The thing is, look, obviously, if you do your homework, you can stop a lot of... Are you there?
Yeah.
Am I on? Yeah.
Yes, you're on.
If you do your homework, obviously, you can curb a lot of the problems. But just to break Bobes' heart and Nasser's heart, I mean, in the November Test series at the moment, New Zealand kicked the most out of any team, 3,700 meters. That's what they kick. Okay, so they're averaging 900 meters per game. They just played against France now. Beauden Barrett kicked 600 meters just on his own, which is 2 times more than any fly-off in the last round of games, which is incredible. But the fact of the matter is, in this game against France, for example, they actually had 48% possession and 46% territory, and they still won the game. They made 200 tackles. I mean, when they beat Ireland, they kicked 920 meters, and they made 287 tackles, tackled at 94%, and won the game 21-9. So unfortunately, the team that makes the most tackles, kicks the most, usually will win the game, because when you've got possession, you make a lot of mistakes. You end up getting punished on counterattack.
Okay, well, Omar, then just sum it up for us. What happened in the November series for South Africa? Because, you know, we lost all 3. It looked at one stage there was absolutely no defensive pattern. It looked like there was no attacking pattern. So just sum it up for us and then say to us, you know, that was the problem. Because you say if you've got the game plan and we say we have the players, now what went wrong?
Yeah, also look at, once again, not to be critical, just to make an observation. I mean, if you look at the one line out that we defended, which is with a 9 in front and it's a 6-man, we call it a 69, where Wales played in front of the 8 to the 12 short. We still defended that after that exact play being done against us by Vinnie Pola in England, except they played the short option instead of the wide option. We defended exactly the same with 1 man short out of the line out. I think that maybe just some attention to detail, not to make the same mistakes twice. I think definitely on a physicality level, maintaining the physicality over 80 minutes. If you look at New Zealand, to give you the answer, when the tide turns, and this is we always talk about it in rugby, the momentum is going to be with you and then it's going to be against you. It's what you do when the tide's against you. So you look at New Zealand under pressure against France. France are coming at 1,000,000 miles an hour, massive ruck speed, massive runners, and they ride that tide and they're physical, they're aggressive, and they get the turnovers when they need to. And then boom, they get one chance and they score from that cross kick. So to answer your question, the physicality and the ability to get stuck in when it really counts, when the tide is turned, is what counts in this game at the moment. So physicality on defense and an excellent kicking game gets you very, very far. And you can't quit when the tide's against you. When the tide is its hardest, that's when you've got to fight harder.
Okay, you've worked with a number of South African players for years, okay? Now, where are we missing the plot then? Why are we suddenly out of the picture? Because we should not be, or allowed ourselves to be out of the picture.
Yeah. No, so you see, the thing is, we talk about aerial skills and kicking game and we feel embarrassed. We talk about defense in South Africa and we get embarrassed. When New Zealand in the championship kicked the most, tackled the most, and won the 4 nations with their hands behind their back laughing. You know, at the end of the day, no one could cope with their defensive kicking game. So when they were putting up and unders, they won the aerial battle most of the time. And if they didn't win the aerial battle, they counter-rucked you, put you in trouble. And most teams couldn't handle what we call the clean-up. So it's a pressure kick. They suckle to get the ball back. They shank a crap kick and New Zealand score immediately. Or they put an attacking kick into the 3rd channel. You scramble in the 3rd channel. You don't clean up the kick nicely. They counter-ruck you and they get the ball anyway. So bringing you back to your point is we got to be excellent at everything, and especially defense and kicking games. So we lost that aspect of being excellent in the air like the Bulls were when their golden era. We lost our ability to have urgency in chase lines. We've lost our ability to read what the attack's doing in real time. if you look at our compression and distribution of our defence, sometimes we're too tight, then we're too narrow. The try that Tipuric scored, Faletau just ran straight onto Inyakani, and then Nazim Kar looked in too early, put pressure on our foot, and a little pop pass in the in behind. Those are small things that we can avoid, and it's not to be critical, it's just to be factual.
Yeah, totally.
Omar, you talked about the kicking game that New Zealand have. How much of that has been actually on those stats say that they're transferring the pressure towards opposition? Because most of the time when they kick the ball, it's not out of duress. When guys are saying, "Oh, we don't have a plan. Let's get out of our 22." It's almost like a kick pass. It's turning the pressure back onto the sides because if you turn another pack and your pack is moving forward, you're bound. If you make that strong tackle, you're bound to get your numbers down there. How much do we look at that when you look at the kicking game? Or do you look at the pressure kicks and where do these guys actually end up with what kick they made?
Yeah, I understand you, Bob. So to give you an example, France and New Zealand had the most running meters out of any team in the November test. So New Zealand were averaging 1,000 running meters, and so were France, okay? So how did they manage to do that and kick a lot and score tries? Well, I'll tell you, the answer is pretty simple. If you kick a pressure kick to them, when they clean up that kick, so say that you put a long grubber through, and the 15 dives on it, and they get a little bit of support, and 7 and 6 come to clean. They don't just kick it immediately. They set up one phase, and if your chase line was crap on the follow-up, they'll catch pass and they'll beat you. They'll go. Yeah. And if after they go, you tackle them and you handle them, then they'll set up again and they'll kick again. But as long as they go and you can't handle them, they'll keep going. And I think that's one lesson we can learn is if you put a kick on us and we feel pressured in our 22, of course, you must clean up the pressure and kick out. But if they don't chase and you literally got a 7-on-3, you've got to use that 7-on-3. And once you've bent them again in the wide channel and they still don't handle you, you've got to keep going forward. What New Zealand do really well is make the decision, is this kick too messy to clean up and do we have to just get out of here? Or was a kick strong, but we were strong enough to handle it and still attack? That's the balance you need to find.
So what I'm hearing is that it's decision-making pretty much. That's where we have to actually sort of give our players and sort of empower them in the decision-making.
Absolutely. There's so many decision-making games you can play where, for example, we call it a stuffy turnover or a clean turnover. If you, for example, we counter-ruck you and you counter-ruck us back and it's highly messy and it's a bun fight, we might have to just box kick that. But if we counter-ruck you smoothly and the ball's out the back nice and smooth, we drop back, we've got time to get a 2-pass on, we've got to get that 2-pass on, of course. And if we bend you and you're not handling us and we're in behind, we have to keep staying in behind. If you tackle us back 2-3 phases and you're smashing us, watch Aaron Smith. He'll straight away set up one more phase and he'll box kick. Yeah. So that ability not to get hurt when you're trying something is the key. I think what happens is we panic and we think, oh my gosh, if I try this 2-pass, we're going to get hurt. So I'd rather take it in and kick sort of flustered. I'm flustered, but I kick anyway. That's sometimes what the problem is,
Omar, earlier you spoke also about the physicality of the Springboks and just how we were renowned for smashing every single team in the world. How do we return to that sort of aggressive defense? And also, how much of that has to do with the confidence of the players in the team?
Look, there's so many factors. Obviously, your conditioning protocols in the week, how many training sessions you have, the loads that you put on the player, the intensities of the training sessions. But, I look at the Sharks, and I only give this example because I was there. Worst defence in Super Rugby the year before. Not a lot of physicality, worst turnovers forced, a lot of tries against. And we shored it up by fixing the conditioning with Jan Pretorius, who's a fantastic conditioning coach, and obviously using our GPS properly, so monitoring accelerations, decelerations, G-force, body loads, collisions, and making sure we married the right amount of physicality every week to the amount of running that we did. So we were nice in condition, could make some big hits, but we had the tank, the juice in the tank to actually get around the park and make those hits. And I think that's really important. And there's a lot of studies done on collision worthiness. And the more collisions you do in the week, the more you arm your central nervous system to make those hits in the game. So the less collisions you do in the week, the less armed you are in a game. So I don't know what the mix of collisions they're doing in the week to give the tackle technique, to give the collision ability and the collision worthiness so that the nervous system feels that it's switched on to transfer into the game. Obviously, there is a disconnect somewhere, and I'm not sure where it is.
Yeah, well, we certainly are in the business of trying to find answers for some of the big issues that South African rugby has faced in the last little while. Omar, thank you very much. We're keeping it short this time, and I know that we will be in touch with you when the new year starts and the South African season gets underway. You guys will be seeing the French teams prepare for Six Nations as well, so there'll be a lot of interest with France preparing to come to South Africa for a 3-test series. Thanks very much for joining us.
Thanks so much for having me, guys. I appreciate it. Take care.
very quickly, Nancy, look at me like you want to kill me if I don't let you talk.
No. It's just that, you see, we've been going through this for a number of years now. Game plan.
Yeah.
Now, you can't tell me, he's talking about the New Zealand kicking. It's part of the game plan.
Yeah.
But I promise you now, they played as they feel, as they see it. Where we got stuck into game plans, and that's why our players don't play. That's why they don't think. And then the tactical kicking game is not even on par for 90% of the team.
What you're saying is we leave the responsibility in South Africa to the game plan, the New Zealanders leave it to the individual.
Totally.